Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is John Shaver. John is the Chief Value Officer at Axiology. After working for a few years in both the public and private sectors of accounting and finance, he decided to jump into the entrepreneurial world. His belief is that there are types of issues that have always driven a wedge between customers and software partners over the years. This creates unnecessary stress on both sides. His passion and mission is to help customers use their system to the greatest effect. It bothered him that customers perceived software and the software partner to be necessary evils as unknown costs were to be avoided. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, John Shaver.
All right. Thanks, Ed. Glad to be here.
Well, first off, John, why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Well, again, I can kind of elaborate on what you were saying about in the ERP industry in particular, we just noticed that there seemed to be a lot of negativity from customers, and not that they didn't like us personally, but they didn't like all of the unknowns involved. They didn't know, who bears responsibility for the software, why the prices are unknowns. So they would ask us, well, why do I get a bill every time my software breaks? I didn't break it. So why don't you just fix it? And I think one of my favorite stories is I actually had a customer that they would tell their employees not to call because he didn't know whether he was going to get a bill for $100 or $5,000. So back in the billable hour days. So that really, that kind of really hit home that we needed to change the nature of the relationship. And so, at first we had switched to a value pricing model, but most recently we've moved to a full-blown subscription model that covers everything related to Sage 100 ERP in particular. Yes. So whether you would be someone who's new to Sage 100, or if you're already using it, the subscription covers both. So that's sort of where that background came from.
So you're saying including like new implementations, so they're just going to pay a subscription price there's no extra price for the initial implementation?
Correct. That's right. All of the normal project management that would happen with a brand new implementation, scoping, business process reviews, employee training, all of that would happen with the subscription. So you would not have that big upfront dollar amount that everybody has to just kind of, traditionally everybody's just had to take that risk that I hope this will work for me. I'm going to write a big check and hope it works. No, you just start with subscription, and that includes everything.
And well, what about people who get on your subscription for like 3 months, get your implementation, and then leave you?
Well, that is a risk that I take, sure, and I'm okay with taking that risk. I guess the way I look at it is that unless we do or I do a really, really bad job, the chances of that happening are probably pretty low. So that's sort of where I'm coming from with that. But yes, they could do that.
And have you had that happen to you yet?
No, I've never had that happen. So, and we also offer a 100% money back guarantee on everything we do. And I've had that in place for, gosh, how long has it been now? 15 years. And I've never had anybody ask for money back. They've asked us to fix things, which we did. And that was covered under that fixed price. But I've never had anybody actually invoke the money back. They just want it fixed.
And what's the reaction from customers when you present this? Or some must be surprised. Some must be expecting the upfront cost, or maybe even want that upfront bump.
Well, it's an interesting question, because I think that we have all done a really good bad job of teaching folks that that's the way it works. So I would say the number one reaction is almost a disbelief. Like, this can't possibly be true. There's something I'm missing in here. And I'm like, no, I've made it as the pricing model as simple as I possibly can. That there's nothing hidden. There's nothing secret about it. It's just a pure subscription.
And so far, so good. How long have you had the model in place?
Let's see, it's been about a year now. So it's fairly new for us, but yeah, but people seem to really enjoy it.
And has anybody absolutely pushed back and said, no, we don't want to do it this way? And if so, what do you do in those cases?
Well, again, I haven't yet. Now I know the possibility. I mean, I have run across folks over the years that just insist on having a billable hour. And I think that's just because that's the way they've always done it. And maybe they feel like they have some sort of control over the cost of the project, which actually I think it's probably the opposite. But again, I mean, I've kind of decided that we don't offer anything outside of subscription now. So if someone was just totally opposed to it, I mean, I can explain the value to them and the pros of it. But I think if they're just opposed to it, they're opposed to it. I'm not really sure. Again, I always use the steakhouse analogy that, Golden Corral isn't worried about Ruth's Chris and Ruth's Chris isn't worried about Golden Corral. They're two different models. So I'm the Ruth's Chris, by the way.
And that's great. Are you concerned, however, that people might say after being on your subscription for, say, 2 or 3 years, that they say, well, now I'm paying more than I would have had I just paid up front?
Right. Well, and that's a good question too. And the way I'm approaching that is sort of, it's more like an insurance policy. And that's the way I've always approached the whole value pricing concept and subscription. Is it's an insurance policy. I mean, we continue to do a good job for you. We have very detailed, in-depth knowledge of your business. That if you went with someone else, that knowledge is kind of gone, is gone. So one of the, outside of just pure subscription pricing, another piece of the business model is that I have my limit for number of customers per consultant is 15. Because I think that's a pretty good number for a good, professional ERP consultant. And so part of my thing there is that what I've also heard from customers in dealing with their IT firms mainly is that they don't like having to go through a help desk where they're talking to a different person every single time. So the model here is to have that dedicated consultant that knows you and knows your business and has all of that knowledge. So you're talking to that person, anytime you need something. So I think that's part. It's not just the pricing part of it. I think it's the having consultants dedicated to a limited number of customers. I think that's, yeah.
So this would be more like a concierge model than anything else.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, almost like the direct primary care physicians, that sort of thing. Yep.
And John, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
All right. I would go so he's a musician. His name is Robert Fripp. He's a guitarist for a band called King Crimson. They've been around since 1969. Super talented guy. But as far as why he's a hero is he's always done things his own way. They've never had traditional commercial success. There's no Grammys, no top 40 singles, that sort of thing. They came close to having a single in 1969, and I think that kind of made him mad, and he did never get close to it again. But that's why he's my hero. Is he does things on his own terms. He's always stuck with his principles over a long period of time. That's his big thing is discipline, and so I try my best to follow in his footsteps.
And lastly, John, how can somebody contact you?
Sure. My phone number is 865-389-3600, or you can send an email to john@axiology.net. That's AXIOLOGY.net.
All right, John Shaver, Chief Value Officer at Axiology. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
All right. Thank you, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.